All right, thanks everyone. We'll kick off. It's right on 6 o'clock. I appreciate it's a busy week for you guys in Lucindale with the field days. Hopefully, Natasha, you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, no problem.
Okay. No worries. So Natasha is here tonight. She's from Holmes Dyer. She's led this project from the start up until this point. Tonight, we will kick off. It's an information session. This pretty much same information session has been provided to our elected member body. We do have our elected members here tonight, Councillor Deputy Mayor Crosling, Councillor Goodman and Councillor Ireland at the rear of the building. Thanks for making the effort tonight. Like I said, we'll try to keep it to about an hour. It's an information session to go through pretty much from the last time we were out at Lucindale in regards to when Natasha was here in person with her colleague to basically fact find and get the information. We've now collated that information with the help of Holmes Dyer, and we've put it into a document, which you'll see there, and there's spare ones there if you'd like to grab them, to basically present, and hopefully with the endorsement of the community through this public consultation period, which is currently open, get this to fruition and lock it away in the coming months. So apart from that, I don't think there's anything else I need to make anyone aware. I'll hand over to Natasha. Well, at the end, we've got a microphone, which we have to hand around so Natasha can hear the questions. If you have any questions, then just put your hand up and we'll run the microphone down. You can ask Natasha those questions if there's anything you need clarified in the document. Apart from that, over to you, Natasha. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm just going to set up my sharing of the screen so you can all see a presentation. Okay, can you confirm to me if you can see the presentation?
Yep.
Yeah.
No worries. And has it gone full screen yet?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. I will get started then. Okay. Ooh, lost it, my bad. There we go. So thank you all for coming this evening. I guess the purpose of our session tonight is to run through the details and the process of how and why the master plan update and review was conducted, and then go through individually the actions and projects that were presented in the implementation plan as part of that update and review. So firstly, Council engaged Holmes Dyer in 2023 to undertake this process. They identified a need for a review and update of the existing 2019 master plan due to several actions being realised or achieved, a general and overall shift in community and council priorities, and also a number of changing demographics, significant changes to the planning and design code, as well as changes to residential and housing needs in the area. So I think it should be mentioned that this document scope was to review and update the existing master plan. From that, we looked at how council had achieved a number of their intended actions and projects, what projects were remaining and whether they still align to what the community's aspirations were, as well as where council had existing resourcing and timeframes that could achieve those actions. And also identifying any new and additional actions that were a priority for the community and that could be included into the timeline and the resourcing of the remaining 4 years of this master plan's lifespan. So the first step that we took was reviewing the 2019 master plan implementation plan. So this was a table presented at the end of the document that outlined in detail each intended project, their timeline, their intended indicative costing, and also a few details around what that project would include. So we reviewed it by reviewing information documents that council provided, as well as detailed design work and other documentation that had been completed. We gave each project a status of whether it was ongoing, whether it had been achieved, whether it was planned for the future, or whether it had been removed from the intended outcomes of the master plan. And then from that, we left comments about the process that council undertook to achieve the project, any community feedback that had been gained during that period, and also the next steps for any ongoing or remaining actions that were yet to be completed. So we then discussed in the document the key changes in demographics, the planning and design code, and most notably in residential housing needs in the area. We identified that recent
Natasha,
yes.
can we just interrupt? Your slides aren't up. Is that meant to be up?
Yes, sorry.
Very intently listening, but I think they need to be looking at the same time.
Yeah, apologies. I can see that the red line that says the screen is sharing had disappeared. If it drops out again, just interrupt me, let me know, and I'll fix it for you.
Too easy, thank you.
So I'll start this little bit again to get back in place. So we had a look through data and research investigations around residential housing needs in the area, which RP data or Core Logic sales data identified that there'd been an increase in residential sales values as well as the volume, despite such low stock in the Lucindale community. Other key changes that we determined from the 4-year period that the master plan was active was the transition of the planning code from the development plans that were in place before 2020 to the planning and design code, which is now the main planning process and body that is used since 2021. So that saw a few changes in the names of zones, as well as the appropriate development type and activities that were allowed within those zones. There was also significant changes in demographic makeup, such as age group segmentation, segments, as well as the overall boundary of where the Lucindale Township in urban form was located in terms of the census data. We then visited Lucindale. So in late 2023, we ran a drop-in session as well as a roundtable workshop / information session. We had online survey and written responses, and we also produced a fact sheet and website landing page to share information. So during these in-person sessions, we gained a lot of good feedback on what the community's changing aspirations were. A number of them lay in the need for additional housing, additional accommodation for workers, and additional short-term accommodation for both short-term visitors as well as tourism and also workers' accommodation. There was also a lot of discussion about the improved quality of open space and focusing resourcing on existing open space and key locations such as Jubilee Park and the Centenary Park. And there was also a lot of talk around the provision of childcare and also the access to medical and health services. It was noted that recently the childcare facility has been granted a state government grant to upgrade its facility. So it wasn't included in the end in the actions as a result of consultation for this master plan. So from the actions that we identified during the consultation period, we translated them into a different group of projects that fall within under various themes of housing, open space, main street activation, and transport. These actions were then placed into the similar format as the original 2019 master plan of an implementation plan. So an implementation plan essentially outlines what the project or the action is, its name, its description of what it might include, the time frame around when it would be undertaken, indicative cost of how much council may need to budget for it, and also the responsibility and role of council within that project and the intended level of community engagement that might be undertaken. So this implementation plan included the remaining actions from the 2019 master plan that community had identified was still a priority and relevant, as well as a number of additional actions and projects that arose from the discussions we had during the consultation period for stage 1. So this implementation plan that we'll go through in detail now is intended to be updated regularly. This would be where council can amend the priority levels or timeframes and budget in relation to potential grant funding that they receive or community consultation that's further undertaken for select projects. So theme 1 for the implementation plan was housing. Housing was a really key discussion point throughout the consultation, as well as from the data research that we did. The first action for H1 here was to create a community and landowner guidance information. So this is where council would look to create an FAQ that outlined how the changes in the new planning and design code allow for certain areas of residential development within the rural zone, as well as different processes and requirements that landowners would have to undertake to start or initiate any form of rezoning or code amendment. So that would be an internal resourcing activity that council would undertake and produce and provide to the community through online measures and print form. The Rural Living Policy Review was an action that was brought forward from the 2019 Master Plan. So undertaking a code amendment to provide rural living zone policy over the areas to the south and east of the existing township. So this is a significant area of land that had been identified in the 2019 master plan as having potential to support a higher intensity of residential development, still with significantly large allotments, but significantly smaller than the standard 5 hectare requirements that a rural zone used to have. And so this is a process that community supported as a priority and to maintain it in this version and update of the master plan. So as part of that, as part of the process of undertaking a code amendment, we developed a task or an action for council to undertake a further market analysis to determine the demand and also landowner appetite to deliver and develop more residential. And this is generally to understand the feasibility of council supporting landowners in potentially getting land rezoned through the code amendment that was identified in Action H2. So Action H4 is similar. It would be an element of a project that falls under the Rural Living Policy Review. And that would be to investigate the infrastructure requirements that would be needed to support any future residential development, particularly in those areas identified in the Rural Living Policy Review, but also additional areas around the township that could support higher intensity residential. The second theme that was discussed in the implementation plan was community infrastructure and services. So these were all new actions that were developed from consultation. and they were based around advocating for further short-term accommodation options, as well as investigating opportunities for aged care living arrangements. So action CSI 1 was for council to look to advocate for a community or private organisation to establish or run cabins on the existing campsite. Caravan park site, sorry. And this would be to support tourism overnight stays, but also to provide a short-term accommodation option for further use. So council wouldn't have a direct role in the delivery of a project like this, but rather an advocacy role where they support with information sharing, particularly in terms of identifying grants that might support this for a private operator. CSI 2 was to undertake a market analysis of the demand and potential take-up of retirement living accommodation. So there's already retirement living units in the township that have been incredibly successful in terms of take-up over the last few years. And there was a clear demand or discussion had during consultation that there is a growing need for these kind of smaller aged care, aged living accommodation options within the council area and particularly the township. And then we also identified council's ability to initiate communication and talks with community housing providers, as well as partnerships with private developers that might be interested in providing some form of retirement living option in Lucindale. So the third theme that separated the actions in the implementation plan was recreation and open space. This was by far the most dense section of the implementation plan and the report. And this brought forward a lot of the remaining actions from the 2019 master plan, which included the rail trail, finalising detailed design around where the rail trail will lead and what kind of elements it would include in terms of landscaping and capital works. There was also the Jubilee Park detailed design that was also brought forward from the 2019 plan. Again, that would be the detailed design and then moving on to the capital works that were associated with upgrading the park. We did get additional feedback about what elements of design the community would like to see in the Jubilee Park. We recorded those responses, but in terms of them appearing in the implementation plan, we identified that it's probably fits within the scope of progressing the detailed design work rather than being part of the master plan. We identified a new action for the Lucindale Recreation Reserve stakeholders to undergo some form of consultation with council about what their participation numbers are, what their growth potential and intended future playing groups and needs look like. And that would be in order to determine if any grant funding or future revitalisation of the existing recreation space would be required. As a result of that consultation with the existing sports and site stakeholders, we identified that there might be a need for a separate and site-specific master plan process that puts those design elements, those sports trends and participation numbers into a report that can be used to bid for grant funding and also determine what the priorities on the site are. So council again would act more as an advocate and a mediator in this activity rather than provide the development management side. And then finally, the tree planting strategy. That was an action that was rearranged from the original master plan. The original master plan talked about a vegetation guidelines with no specific reference to identifying planting locations. Some tree planting had already occurred by council in the township, and it was identified by community members in 2023 that further street tree planting, greening, provision of shade in key locations such as Centenary Park would be desirable, and that the vegetation guidelines would be more useful and impactful if they identified where tree planting could occur and gave scheduling and pricing against how council might conduct that program. So the Main Street activation theme, these two actions, again, they are from the 2019 master plan. They have had a rewording and tweaks to align better with how community aspirations have unfolded now, and also in response to the community consultation that occurred in early 2023 in regards to the Musgrave Avenue Main Street detailed design. Sorry, did someone?
Just a cough.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought maybe my screen wasn't sharing again, sorry. So the Main Street upgrade detailed design was a response to that initial consultation and community walk around that happened in about March 2023. The original detailed design was reviewed and elements of it were considered of low priority where others were considered of high priority. And as a response, it was determined that further consultation and detailed design should occur. There are a number of actions from the original design that have taken place and that council intends to further in the remaining 4 years of this master plan. And then the second action there would be to undertake the capital works that are associated with that detailed design. And so the last theme that was discussed in the implementation plan was based on traffic movement and parking. This was a difficult topic to discuss. There was a lot of mixed discussion and opinions about where investment and where community had the highest priority for change to occur. A combination of what council's previous master plan discussed and also what community identified was their #1 priority for those who attended and participated in the consultation phase, stage 1, was to have safer crossing and pedestrian access along Musgrave Avenue, and that also include access for cyclists and people with mobility, with decreased mobility, potentially using scooters, mopeds, prams, even for parents. And this is also an action where council had submitted an application for grant funding from state government and had been awarded that funding. So it's a really important action to maintain in this master plan and push forward into the capital works stage. And so to spatially identify where each of these actions may occur, and just to give a broad connection between what we've said in the report and what we learnt in terms of people's key issues, we created a master plan action map. And so each action is identified by its reference, letter and number. And then a broad outline of the intended area is identified. And a lot of these actions weren't specific to one location. They did include the analysis or investigation of the town in itself, but generally along main streets or in the residential area. So that's where it's been identified on the map. And so in terms of what we do from here, the consultation stage 2 will be running until the end of this month, until the 29th, is 30th? I'm going to go with 30th. Until the 30th. I don't know how many days are in we're in March, April. March, we're in March. Sorry, guys. I lose track of time. So it will be running until the end of the month. We're still receiving survey responses. So even if after this session you feel like there's more feedback that you would wish to give, there's opportunities to write written feedback on the survey based on each action or project, as well as simply give a preference rating of whether you support the action or whether you have some reservations towards it. So from that feedback, we will create a key findings summary for council. We'll review it with council staff, and then we'll make any key changes that came out of those responses. And then the final document will be presented to elected members potentially for endorsement or further edit, further consultation for them to determine. So that's my little spiel about the report and about the process that we went through. I'd now like to open up to any questions or clarification I can give, or any comments people would like to provide now in terms of their feedback.
Any questions? It is a recording too, so we'll upload this on our website, so you can obviously view, or the people that were not present tonight can obviously watch the recording as well. Are there any questions about the item?
Yeah, I had one on the residential development. You've really only got it out on the southeastern side. I thought at one stage you were talking
southeast side.
Yeah, the southeast side.
Yeah.
I thought at one stage you were going to increase it to the north as well. And and also I made a comment on the survey about Railway Terrace, because there's land on Railway Terrace with power and that already available, but that's not in your yellow shading.
Yeah. In terms of identifying land for future res, the only locations that we've specifically earmarked in this report are to the southeast and to the northeast. I'll go back to the map. If you look up to the northeast or the east of the school area, we've identified a portion of land that abuts existing residential neighbourhood that could be the most logical expansion for residential that isn't an infill option. But generally the market analysis, which I think was action H3, would be a more detailed process that council would go through to identify specific land holdings and parcels where landowners are interested, or it makes the most logical sense to expand residential. So the action itself would further investigate where that residential would be located, but no, we haven't identified any more in this report. What was the other part of your question? Sorry.
Railway Terrace.
Railway Terrace.
Yeah, so just to answer that, and Natasha, obviously we've been speaking in regards to the regional plan, and I've spoken to you as well, actually, in regards to the regional plan is currently in draft form. That's captured a full sweep, and it's more of a detailed plan than a concept plan. That's what's in the Lucindale Masterplan. So we have got that in that area.
That's all I needed.
Anyone else?
Well, can I just clarify, like, this is an opportunity, it's microphones. I don't need that opportunity to ask questions about Natasha's presentation, but I guess also in terms of this master plan, you know, if there's gaps and things that you don't feel have been captured adequately or reflected in the plan to discuss, or also, as Natasha said, if there's things that you perhaps have reservations about, you know, you could ask questions about that as well. So it doesn't have to, you know, be specifically about what she spoke on tonight. It's also an opportunity to do those things. Happy days.
Any other thoughts? As Natasha said, obviously you can provide feedback through the consultation process. I'm sure if it's a burning desire, a conversation needs to be had. I'll probably get in contact with one of us from the council office and or Natasha. We can connect you up so you can have that conversation as well. So.
Yep, happy to answer any questions at a later date if you need time to mull over what we've chatted about. We did present to the elected members a few weeks ago and got their feedback. We didn't make any alterations to the master plan in its draft form as yet. We rather wanted to present what the community draft was for your viewing first. So there's still feedback to be reviewed, potential changes to be made and updated.
Just a question about the rail trail, which obviously has got high priority. What is the initial part of that? Where is it?
The initial rail trail has been identified in the, Josie's going to kill me for saying Lochell Park. Leckhills. I say it wrong every time. So in the master plan, a rail trail between the existing park boundary through to the township main street has been identified.
5 kilometres worth. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, if you want further details about I guess the design and the consideration behind that, it is in that master plan rather than representing it in this one. That's why we haven't touched on it in too much detail. No further questions from anyone?
Nope. Doesn't appear so, Natasha.
Wonderful. Well, I hope it has been informative for everyone and that I didn't skim too much, but I thought it was important to focus on the actions and the projects that came out of this rather than the background investigations we did. But if you want any more clarity about how we produced the numbers we did in terms of sales data or population, I'm also happy to answer that. My email, the engagement at Holmes Dyer email, should be available on all the consultation information, the summaries online and the posts on social media, so you can contact me through there.
No worries. Thanks, Natasha. And also the elected members are obviously your voice for council as well. And the mayor, who is also an apology tonight, I'm sure he's happy to advocate if you've got any concerns or anything you would like to be addressed moving forward. So on that note, thank you, Natasha.
No worries. I'll sign off and let you guys enjoy the rest of your evening.
No worries. Thank you.
See you later.
Right. So no further questions, I assume. That pretty much winds us up. Nice, short, sharp and shiny. If you need any consultation staff, yell out. We can get it to you, give it to you, email it through to you. And apart from that, thanks for making the effort.